Welcome to the Earthworks Podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hello all, and welcome to the Earthworks Podcast with me, your host, Jack Higgins. Today I am joined by CJ Buck of the Philadelphia Union. CJ, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here.
All right, dude. So tell me, is your title the head groundskeeper over there?
I am the head Sportsturf Manager. So I maintain all three of our playing surfaces here at Subaru Park and the power training complex.
Okay, and of course I've met and worked with it for a number of years, John Torres, who is still there.
Yes, sir. He got promoted to director of grounds, and so now he oversees the whole property, what they call campus. So we sit on a mile worth of property, which includes the stadium, the training fields, parking lots, and where the first team, both business and technical, are based out of.
Wow. And yeah, you guys, I know you have the Major League Soccer team, the Philly Union, but also a minor league team plays there as well, right?
Yes, sir. So they just started a new league called Mls Next Pro, which is essentially I think it's labeled as the third division of American soccer, but it's the gateway from the academy system into the second team, into the first team.
Okay. Wow. So, I mean, I guess the point is very busy schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can. 2019, we were really busy. 2020 was 2020. Last year was a little hit or miss throughout parts of the year because the start of the year was still affected by COVID protocols and procedures. And so this year, yeah, we're looking at a full schedule again.
And this year in the soccer world is a special year, and it affects everybody because of the World Cup.
Yes, sir, that's right. So last year we started later and went later. This year we're starting more on time, which our first match was the 26th of February, I want to say. And we're going to be ending the regular season will be ending in early October, and then the playoffs will be ending in early November. So then straight from the end of the playoffs, players will be leaving to go to their national teams in Qatar for the World Cup.
Jeez. Well, we got started talking, and the idea to come on the podcast here was you gave me a call maybe a week or two ago talking about kind of the challenges that you had early on in the season, opening the season, starting play. I was down to see you at the stadium a couple weeks before that, and we kind of were discussing agronomic plans and that sort of thing. But then you had quite a challenge opening because, and this happens with the soccer schedule, you just start so early. You had quite a challenge opening with snow.
So
really cold starts.
That was our second match. Our first match actually went off without a hitch, which for the end of February was welcomed because February, I feel, is our worst winter month here in Southeast Pennsylvania, and August I feel is our worst summer month. There's always just blizzards in February or just incredibly cold temperatures, and then flip it to August and you always have hurricanes coming through and incredibly high temperatures. So those are the 2 months that I always look out for in terms of struggling with just unexpected weather events. But yeah, we were blessed with a beautiful day for our opener, but then March 12th, actually the week leading up to March 12th was in the 60s, beautiful, clear, perfect weather. And then March 12th, the temperature plummeted. We got about, I want to say 1 inch to 3 inches of snow. I can't remember exactly the number now, but either way, it all happened leading up to kickoff. It wasn't like an overnight thing. We showed up at 10 a.m. on game day. We had tarp the night before, and it started snowing I want to say at 1 o'clock, and it all came down pretty rapidly. But either way, we had to move it to get match ready. So we plowed all the tarps, untarped the field, and the temperature just kept dropping as we were going. So I think it started out in the high 40s and it ended up in the mid 20s at the end of the night. So it was it was a first for me, and it was pretty miserable because the field was freezing under your feet as you were just walking on it. You could feel it crunching, which, we were always taught frosted turf, you avoid it at all costs just because you could kill it. So I didn't know what to expect coming out of that. And then, of course, the day after the match, it was still cold, but I mean, it was a beautiful, clear day. It was in the high 30s, low 40s. So if the match would have, if just it had been one day later, one day sooner, everything would have been fine. But it's just the way the schedule works out. You can't control the weather, and the schedule is what it is. So it took all the decision making out of my hands because there's nothing we could do about it. The match had to go on, and we had the field ready. It's just a matter of picking up the pieces after the fact.
Oh yeah, but the anxiety, as you're watching them train and then play their game on this field, and I'm sure even the pregame is even more anxiety ridden because they're moving things on and off the field, and you're worried.
Yeah. So training, I mean, like I said, it was 60 degrees that day, so training was no issue, and the field played great. It's been playing great this spring. And then, like you said, pregame, we have a couple things to engage the fans here. So we have a big drum that they roll out onto the field, and it's on big pneumatic tires, so it doesn't do any damage. We told them how to bring it on and off with doing as little damage as possible to the field. So that wasn't an issue. But of course, whenever you throw in freezing temperatures and frost, that's, you never know what you're going to get. And so we had clear as day tire tracks on the field from that drum, and that was kind of the easiest marker of like the damage was those tire tracks that I kept my eye on for the weeks following the match. And I mean, the days after the match, whenever everything started to turn necrotic, you could see exactly full on footprints from players, staff, whoever was out there. So it wasn't like it was any confusion or any unknowns where the damage came from. It was the match. And so it was interesting. The day after the match, we had another match with U2, and all of the damage the night before had kind of turned that brown black color, and then the days following, it all started to bleach out, just turn lighter brown, necrotic white, all that sort of stuff. But if you dug down in the damage, the tips were all crispy brown, white, but everything underneath the damage was still beautiful green, luscious turf. So, I mean, we knew we were I guess I didn't know. I was hoping we were in a good spot to where it would grow out of it, but it was just a matter of the weather cooperating, which is always a big ask. So
let's fill in the listeners. So just to get an idea as what this field's like. So it's a sand root zone with internal drainage, I imagine, right down to the gravel layer.
Yes,
it's cool right now. It's cool season turf, bluegrass, probably some ryegrass in there as well.
Yeah, so we started out with a HGT bluegrass field, and we interseeded different types of bluegrass and ryegrass into it. So, I mean, I couldn't give you exact percentages. I would say it's still more blue than rye, but yeah, it's a cool season field, full on, no question about it.
And you're mowing at what, a little less than an inch, or
7/8?
7/8. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's where I feel like it looks its tightest, in my opinion. So that's what we like to play at.
So you're watching them, you like you said, the pregame, they've got some kind of spectacle sort of stuff, pull out the big kettle drum, hype up the fans, and then the game. And then the next day you can see now at a height of cut of 7/8, you're seeing more just the tops of the leaves starting to do that black to yellow to white sort of look, and digging down towards the crown, you were protected a little bit there.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So like I said, I mean, if you took one leaf blade, the top half of it was off colored necrotic, but the bottom half of it was still healthy green, like nothing had happened. So we were, I mean, pretty fortunate, I guess. But yeah, the crowns were all completely intact, and this all kind of linked up. It wasn't necessarily planned out that way, but we had applied a granular fertilizer the Monday before the match. And so over the course of the next couple of weeks, with better temperatures, the granular fertilizer really helped the plants all recover and take off. And I think it was a combination of the fertilizer and the weather together. And I mean, within 3 weeks, we were completely grown out of it.
Now this isn't an Earthworks commercial, but it is the Earthworks podcast, and I know this was what you called me very excited about. It was the first time you had used this product. It was the 822 that you went out with. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we threw out the 822. I want to say at about 0.6 of a pound of nitrogen, and then we followed it up the week after. We solid tined and threw down 333 to get us closer to a pound in total.
This was all before this game.
Well, so the 822 was before, and then the week after the match, we solid tined and threw the 333. So all told, it was just under a pound of nitrogen. But I mean, obviously, I think the bulk of the benefit came from the 822 with its quicker release. And so, yeah, I mean, we were debating on potentially verticutting, trying to cut some of the brown tissue out. But whenever we looked at it, we kind of decided that it was just going to grow out of it and we were going to mow it off. And that's exactly what happened. And we got lucky to where we had the 2 matches back to back, and then we didn't have another match for 2 weeks, which was U2 again, but we didn't have another first team match until 3 weeks after. So, we had plenty of time to recover, and then the weather lined up and it all worked out. We got kind of pinched on the front end, but then we got a break on the back end. So that's life on the river down here. Like, it comes and goes with the weather, and that's the transition zone too. We're in the upper part of it, but you never know what you're going to get day to day, week to week. So you just take it as it comes.
You're exactly right. And you do have an interesting little microclimate. You mentioned, right, life on the river. Your stadium is right on the Delaware River, south of Philadelphia. Really, a really cool location, actually.
It's a beautiful spot, and the river complicates things. I've worked in the mountains, and the mountains complicate things, and now living on the river, it's even more different. So you like I said, you never know what you're going to get. Snow squalls roll in off here. You get incredibly humid temperatures rolling off here. You get pop-up showers left and right during the summer. So it's always a challenge, but the challenge to me is kind of what makes it fun and also incredibly frustrating at the same time. But
and you were amplified. That river amplified the situation that you dealt with last month with it dropping so quickly because that water's still so cold. So you're going to drop even colder being right on the river.
Yeah, and I mean, it plummeted rapidly. I mean, it was incredible to start out the day in the 40s, and I mean, you could feel like you just, I don't even know how to describe it.
Oh yeah, I was at a tree farm this past week on the Shenandoah River, and he told me that in that same day that you're talking about, he went from 64 degrees to 4 degrees that following night. It was a 60-degree drop.
Yeah, so I mean, 20 degrees really isn't that bad of a shift because we've had worse here, and I mean that's just the winter for you in general. But it just, I don't know, it felt different because you could just feel it in your bones. It getting way colder because you come out dressed one way and you realize in a matter of a couple hours that the way you were dressed when you got to work is not the way you should be dressed in terms of layers and all that. So I mean, I always said it would be cool to be a part of one time. I'll see you guys out in Salt Lake or in Denver pushing snow during matches. And I'm like, I think that'd be fun exactly one time. And this one time was enough for me. Luckily, we didn't have to break out the orange ball and we weren't plowing snow off lines during the match. But the whole experience was enough to never make me want to do it again. So, trying to get tarps folded up that are frozen and have ice stuck to them and snow still piled in them that won't come off, because we did plow the tarps, but we didn't get all the snow off. So then we had to deal with that for the next 3 weeks too, trying to lay out the tarps in the better days and get all the snow melted off, tarps dry, and tarps folded up neatly so we could get them stored, because they were just taking up whole rooms, just balled up. I mean, so 3 weeks later, and we had temperatures in the 60s, mid 60s for 2 weeks after this match, but we would unfold the tarps and they still had pearly white fluffy snow in them. So it's kind of funny to see that. But yeah, I mean, it was something to behold and something I'll always talk about. And I got the pictures to show, what we went through and how things played out. But I don't want to do it again anytime soon.
No. Well, you mentioned the pictures, and I'll refer everybody listening to the 2-minute turf talk that'll be on YouTube, because you provided some really cool pictures, and we're going to kind of do a condensed version of this podcast in the 2-minute turf talk with the visuals, because you can really see the transition from the initial damage to how it grew out, which was really cool.
Yeah, and like I said, those tire tracks were really kind of my measuring stick on how we were looking, because they were the most prominent damage to the field, really. And I mean, just right before your eyes, I stood in the same spot on the field, had the same landmarks lined up and everything, and just they melt away, which just all comes down to the weather and the fertility that we had planned. So like I said, it all worked out, and to see it heal right before your eyes. I mean, it's stuff you can do, and that makes sense according to science and everything we learned and everything they taught me at Virginia Tech. But you're still nervous, like you said, you're anxious in the moment, and you don't know how the next day is going to pan out. But everything worked out, and we're rolling on now.
Yeah, so
hopefully all the snow's behind us.
Yeah, well, you've got an exciting season coming up here. You want to tell us about some of the changes that are going to be happening there?
Yeah, so for one, we have a great team. We've been the best team in the league for the last 3 years, so that's exciting to be a part of that in the organization. And then here at the stadium, we're gonna renovate the field, planning on doing that, switching out to home of Bermuda. So we're looking forward to doing that, because like I said, the life on the river, the summers get pretty rough, and we tried cool season, and it's had its ups and downs. Spring and fall are great, but we get a lot of our play in the summer, and we just need something that can keep up with the heat and the wear, which I find with cool season turf, it can take the heat or it can take the wear, but maybe not both in the amount we get them. So
like bluegrass does great with the wear, but it gets pretty finicky with those hot nights, particularly.
Yeah, we lose all of our roots, and that's it's either what saves you or what kills you. And in our case, we've tried it for 3 years, and we found the same thing happen in all 3 years, where we just can't keep roots for one reason or another. And so switch out to a more cold tolerant variety or cultivar of Bermuda. And so hopefully we get, earlier spring green up, later fall color, and we get the wear and the stable footing that Bermuda gives you. So even if we do end up going heavy with our overseed, you still have that base to fall back on, and it'll always, give you good footing, safe footing, which is more what I'm worried about, is safety first and foremost. So having that to not worry about with Bermuda, that'll just give us all, peace of mind on the sidelines whenever we're watching the matches.
Well, not to mention, I didn't realize that the team was doing so well. So that's really exciting. Plus they demand the highest quality field at that point. You don't want to be the one that screws up a season.
No, that's the thing. If I think any groundskeeper, superintendent, anybody at any level, as long as nobody's talking about you, you're doing your job right. The less they see you, the better. So, I guess the less they think about you, the better. They come out, they're professionals. They want to do their job, and just like you put on your shoes in the morning, you don't expect your shoes to fall apart. They don't expect to walk on the field and it fall apart beneath the feet. So doing our job well helps them do their job well, and that leads to success for the whole organization.
Dude, great. Yeah, great analogy. Well, CJ, you mentioned Virginia Tech. Why don't you tell us a little bit more of your background? You're not from Philly.
No, sir. I don't know if that was apparent or not. Which I get poked and prodded about my playing a little bit. But yeah, so I'm from Southeast Virginia. I'm from Suffolk, Virginia.
Yeah.
Home of Planters peanuts. So we're more peanuts down there. And I went to Virginia Tech, graduated with a 4-year degree, crop soils and environmental science with a focus in turf management and a minor in horticulture. So very well-rounded with plants. I
Is
have
your
friends.
family in agriculture, or are you the first ag guy?
No, my dad, my grandparents, they all had farms and grew up on farms and that sort of thing. So it's not a new thing, but the turf grass side of it is, because obviously, like I said, we're more peanuts, cotton, soybeans, corn, that sort of thing down in Southeast Virginia.
Right.
But the turf was a new wrinkle for the family. So I don't know. My dad gets a kick out of it just because, it's all row crops, and so for me to be in
You're a
turf,
grass farmer.
it's different. Yeah, we're grass farmers. We don't exactly harvest our crop. It stays in place, but
Well, you do every
it's
morning, I think, right?
yeah. I mean, we collect clippings, but it doesn't not to any not there's no end product there, but we do have our own crop that we manage every day. So
Yep.
I actually applied to work at golf courses in high school, and no one ever called me back, which I don't think would be the case today. But
No.
so I tried working on golf courses, but it never worked out. I've been sports turf ever since I've been in the turf industry. So I ended up working with pigs at the research center that Virginia
Okay.
Tech had, and from there I worked in cotton. And then from there, I went to a program at Virginia Tech during high school called Governor's School for Agriculture, which essentially just brought up kids from all over the state together, and they put you in a major. It was like college before college, essentially, for 1 month in the summer. And I wanted to do animal science. I was convinced I wanted to be a vet.
Oh, all right.
And the animal science major was full, so they put me in the plant science major. And there was 4 majors, I think: ag econ, animal science, plant science, and ag leadership. But so I ended up in plant science, and I went and I had a class with Dr. Eric Irvin, who was there at the time. And everybody thought it was so boring because he was just talking about sports turf and golf turf and that sort of thing. I was enthralled, like I thought that was so interesting that could be a career. And then we went and toured the athletics facilities, and Nick McKenna, who's actually I guess he's the outgoing president of the STMA.
Cool.
He was the one who showed me around. I don't know if he remembers that, but he gave us a little tour of Lane Stadium, and just talked more about sports turf and the possibilities there were with it. And so from when I got back to high school from that summer, I knew what I wanted to do. And so I kind of left high school as one of the few people who had a clear path, I guess. And I only applied to Virginia Tech. I got into Virginia Tech. I stayed at Virginia Tech, and my path never deviated, which, it could have just as easily deviated, I guess, once I got into it, but it's just how it worked out. I loved what I did. I loved what I was learning. And Eric Irvin really looked out for me.
Yeah.
I think he's probably, I have a ton of respect for him and all the work that he did, because from the second I stepped on campus, he made sure I had a job in the turfgrass research labs. So I was cutting bent grass with scissors and spraying salt solutions, if I remember correctly, on them for him and Dr. Zhang. And we were seeing like drought stress trials with bent grass. So that's what I started out as, and struggled a little bit first semester. Chemistry and bio killed me. So I had to get my grades back up. So I dropped the job, focused on my studies, ended up graduating, having made Dean's List the last 3 years. And I worked at the rec fields with Chad Kropp, who has his field equipment company, Bulldog Field Equipment. So he taught me everything there was to know about infield skin maintenance with baseball fields, and I have a ton of respect for him. Him and Richard Wade, they hustled up there on the rec fields. And I worked in single A for one summer for a guy that went to my high school, Bobby Estienne. He was the head groundskeeper for the Salem Red Sox. So I worked in single A baseball that summer.
In
and then
Salem,
from there,
Virginia, down there by
yes, sir.
Roanoke. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So it's only 40 minutes away from Blacksburg.
Yep.
And then from there, I went to the Division I facilities, and I worked under the soccer groundskeeper. I kind of stuck to his hip because I knew, like I said, I grew up playing soccer. I love soccer. I only ever wanted to be in soccer. So I knew I wanted to do sports turf, but more than that, I knew I wanted to be on a soccer field, because I thought I was really good in high school, but I hadn't hit my growth spurt yet. So a shorter, heavier set kid, he didn't translate well to the college or pro game. So my aspirations ended in high school, but I knew I wanted to be around the game.
Yep.
So I went and worked at the D1 facilities. I got to paint the football field, hang out on the football field, baseball field, all that. But I really stuck to Andy McReynolds' hip, and he taught me everything there was to know that he knew about managing a soccer field in the mountains of Virginia. And so we had Bermuda on our training pitch and our game field, and that game field was used by men's and women's soccer and lacrosse. So it got a lot of wear as well. And so we got to see ins and outs of that. From there, I graduated, went and worked for Tom Nielsen with the Louisville Bats, and they had a soccer team playing on that baseball field, Louisville City. So we would flip the baseball field to and from a soccer pitch and back.
You would side the infield?
No, we laid an artificial, I mean, literally AstroTurf over the skin.
Oh,
it
wow.
wasn't ideal, but
Right.
there was different methods of doing it. There wasn't a standard at the time. I imagine there's a standard now, but that was the way we did it there. And It wasn't perfect by any means, but we did the best we could with it, because that was a baseball field first and foremost. So we had to flip. We had a couple of overnight flips from soccer to baseball and back again. So we had a third party come and lay the turf. We would make it as safe as we could. And I mean, it played all right. Obviously, it's a little weird going from grass to turf in the same surface, but I don't think we were the only stadium to do that either. But anyway, so that was a summer doing that, getting to work with, that was USL soccer, which is the second division of soccer in the States. And went back to Tech, working part-time, looking for a full-time job. And I had sent an email out. STMA was in Orlando that January. So 2 weeks before I went to Orlando, I sent an email out to every MLS groundskeeper from Kansas City East, because I knew I wanted to work in MLS, and I just shot them all a little blip about me, who I was, and my resume. And I heard back from a handful of people. Some of them didn't email me back till after STMA, which I understand now, because that was probably in the midst of playoffs and then off-season projects and then preseason projects too. It's kind of when I emailed everybody. But the two people who emailed me back with positive messages, which, I mean, everybody was nice, nobody was rude or anything like that, but the two people that emailed me back that wanted to meet and have a chat were Dan Bergstrom, who ended up being my first boss in Houston, and then John Torres, who ended up being my current boss. So from there, I went and met them both at STMA, had good conversations with them, and that ended up being my interview for Dan. And he hired me for the Houston Dynamo, where I was for about 11 months. And I was the assistant groundskeeper there at the time, BBVA Compass Stadium. And I loved it in Houston. We had Bermuda, obviously, and I learned a ton about managing warm season turf down there and the way that it works in Texas, dealing with the heat, humidity coming off the Gulf there. And it's a little swampy, but it was a fun 11 months. And from there, my girlfriend at the time, she's my wife now, we'd been dating 5 years. We're going on 10 at this point. But she was looking for a master's program, and there was nothing in Texas for her. And she was looking at one in Philly. And so it worked out where John had an opening. He reached out to me, saw if I was still interested. And my whole family's in Virginia, so it was really a homecoming of sorts, because Philly is only 5 hours from my hometown. And that's the same distance it took to get to Blacksburg. So I was used to that drive. And like I said, it all lined up. I left Texas, came up to Philly, and I've been here for the last 4 years, going on 5 years now. So it's been a good ride.
What program did your wife apply to?
She was looking for a doctorate in occupational therapy. So she's trying to become an occupational therapist. And there was a program in Philly that she got into at the University of the Sciences. So she was doing that. And like she said, there was just nothing in Texas, around Houston, that fit what she was looking for. So it was nothing against Dan or the guys in Houston, because I love all those guys. They're family to me. The whole crew down there, still talk to all of them. They're a great bunch of guys. And I learned a ton while I was there, but it just wasn't in the plan for the moment to stay down there. So, life gives and it takes. So I came up here, and I've been with John. He taught me everything I know about cool season turf, really, because I mean, that's the predominant grass up in the northern transition zone. And so yeah, I've been here ever since, loving every day and love what I do and where I do it, and John's a great guy, and we have a good crew around us here as well. So really been blessed to work for good people everywhere I've been, and meet a lot of good people. And like Tom, he's incredibly well connected with his Nielsen Mafia. So all the people that I can lean on from that tree, and still talk to my boss from Virginia Tech, still talk to Dan, so it's been a great ride, and a lot of soccer. That's, like I said, that's what I wanted to do. So just been lucky to be able to hang out in the sport as long as I have, and still be a part of it every day. Like I said, working for a great club who's doing really well right now. So,
Oh, it's wonderful.
I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So has the Union won the championship, or will they? Or
I mean, well, we're only 5 games into the season right now. We won our first trophy in 2020. We won the regular season championship, but that was the first trophy in club history. That's the only one we've gotten so far. So we're working on it. It's every year something. We reach a new milestone. We get better every year. Set a new points record. Set a new just home attendance records. All that. So we're constantly breaking our own barriers. It's just a matter of hitting the finish line. We made it to the MLS Cup semifinals last year, and then we ended up missing half of our roster due to COVID. And so, there's kind of an asterisk next to that loss to New York City. So. But New York City beat us in the last couple minutes, and then they went on to win the cup. So, that's
so how does it
sports.
work in MLS? There's like a points championship, and then you go into the playoffs, and
yes. So essentially, it's Americanized in that we have playoffs, but overseas in Europe, everybody, you play for the regular season, so in Europe, most leagues have 34 to 38 games, and the team on top at the end is the champion. And so you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, no points for a loss. So that's how we roll over here. So at the end of the regular season, you win what's called the Supporter Shield.
Okay.
And so that's the most consistent team throughout the year.
Okay.
And then from there, you get into the playoffs and you vie for MLS Cup, which is just like the Super Bowl, NBA Championship, World Series, Stanley Cup. It's just a straight playoff format. And so if you win that, you win the MLS Cup. And then also during the season, we have another tournament going on called the US Open Cup. So there's really 3 trophies to play for. And the US Open Cup is cool in that every level of American soccer can play for the same trophy. So a couple years ago, there was an amateur team from Baltimore who made it to the round of 16 or the quarterfinals or something before they finally ended up losing to DC United, I think is how it went down.
Gosh.
But so you could be playing in an adult league, and you could be playing up against LA Galaxy or something like that, if you make it that far. So that's a cool tournament as well. And so every year automatically you're vying for essentially 3 trophies. And then if you win any one of those trophies, you end up going to the Concacaf Champions League, which is the North American tournament. So if you follow European soccer, the UEFA Champions League, it's the same concept. You take the best teams from every country and you put them in a tournament together. And last year we ended up making it all the way to the semifinals in that tournament as well, before we fell to Club America, which we played a home and away series with. So, that was the first time we were ever in that tournament, and we made it all the way to the semis. So, we're a young, exciting team, and it's very fun to watch and be a part of.
I guess what's difficult, though, from your perspective, is that you have 3 different schedules. You're hosting all of those events, I imagine, or you could be.
Yes. So they're like US Open Cup, they have bids to see who hosts. MLS, we have 34 regular season games. So you have 17 home games right off the cuff. And then obviously, depending on where you're seated at the end of the year, you could host throughout the playoffs. So last year we hosted 3. We were second in the East, so we hosted 3 playoff games. The top seed ended up losing in their first game, so we were going to host all the way to MLS Cup. If we had beat New York City, we would have ended up going to Portland because they were seeded. I think they had 1 more point during the regular season than us, so they were just above us in the standings. But so you got 17 games plus the playoffs plus depending on Open Cup's hit or miss, because like I said, it's bids. It kind of depends on who wants to host it, who can host it, if they have the correct facilities, because some of the lower division teams don't. But
Right.
yeah, any given year you can expect to have 20 to 25, first team events on the field. I would say maybe you could edge up to 30, I guess, but that might be exhibition matches as well as, other random things.
Yeah, and I'll put this in perspective. I have a kind of a similar background to you. When I was at Penn State, I worked for the Beaver Stadium grounds crew, and of course, Beaver Stadium hosts a total of 6 games a year. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean that's the same thing with Lane Stadium. We had the 6-game spring football match.
You had your spring inter squad match.
And graduation. So going from that to this, and that's not to say that it's any easier, but like it's all in the late summer to fall, I guess early winter too. So like it's all in one part of the year. Whereas like I said, our season starts in February and ends in November. So we're dealing with all but 2 months out of the year, really. And so that
they have their challenges, but
it's a marathon. It's definitely not a sprint in soccer. And, like you just said, everybody's got the challenges. I don't think anybody has it better or worse in total because, I might have it better this way, but then, college football, NFL, they got it worse that way. It's give and take between all the sports. And again, that's kind of what makes it interesting, makes it fun, and gives everybody something to talk about.
Yeah, and you did such a great job kind of showing and talking about this wonderful network that we have in this turf world of staying close, staying connected, really appreciating everybody's work, and it's really cool. And dude, you were so generous with your time and conversation on this podcast. This was a lot of good talk here. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it's no problem. Happy to do it. I love the podcast. I love like staying in touch with people, and Twitter I think is huge in our industry. And I mean, it allows you to meet so many different people and get in touch with people. And, I don't think I'd be where I am today without the connections. And that's what I think makes this industry interesting is because I don't know if you find that in other industries, and, just the brotherhood. And like I said, with the whole comparing different sports and stuff, like I don't think you'll ever find somebody who says that their life is easier or harder than yours, because like I said, we all understand where we're coming from, no matter what sport you're in, whether it's baseball and their 81 game home schedule they have, or football and the amount of damage that causes. Like, I mean, we all understand each other, and I think all of us kind of look at fields and golf courses through a different lens than just the average person, because we know what it takes to put that surface out. And even if it does look bad, you don't know what that person's going through, what struggles they had, the weather of that area. Like there's always so many things that go into giving a pristine surface that, it's not going to be perfect all the time, because something at some point is going to go wrong, And so having the network of people to lean on when something does go wrong, if something goes wrong, and then just having the common understanding of all your colleagues, I think it's a great industry. And I wouldn't be where I am without, like I said, Dr. Irvin and all the people I worked for, Dr. Mike Goatley. They helped me a ton, and they're people that I still lean on. And all of the folks at Virginia Tech are great, and just leaning back on friends and people who I consider, like I said, family. It's a brotherhood. And there's just a lot of great men and women in this industry that, we can continue to just form relationships and get better from every day.
Yeah, and I hope that someone listens to this and has that same feeling from this conversation, that, in specifically, like, oh no, they were out on my frosty field, and is it toast? There's like, oh, I remember listening to that EW podcast with CJ Buck, and he talked about how he got down there and he dug down to the crown, and in spite of it looking really awful at the tips, he grew out of it, and it could be okay.
Yeah, because like I said, I don't want to go through it again. So if I can ease someone else's anxiety, that'd be great. Like I said, what I had thought was, oh my God, like everywhere they stepped is going to be, like you said, toast. And it looked at the first couple of days, but it all worked out. And yeah, I mean, my door is always open. I'm easily to reach on Twitter, and whether it's colleagues or students, because that's the thing. I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't just reached out to literally every single MLS groundskeeper. I went and found all their email addresses on STMA's directory because I was a member in college as a student, so I had access to that. And I mean, I just shot them all an email, and now that at least introduced me to them. I met more of them at the STMA conferences because I've been to several. So, I got to meet some of them in San Antonio, some of them in Denver. And then, like I said, John, Dan in Orlando. So I would tell students or anybody, just like, don't be afraid to reach out, because maybe not everybody, but I always try to have an open door policy where there's no secrets, or, I'll always be willing to help you, or at least meet you, show you around. I've showed a couple kids from Penn State around who wanted to stop by and just see the place, because there's nothing wrong with getting more people interested in turf for one, but in soccer for another, because I'm always trying to grow the game, because it has a special place in my heart. I love the sport, and so trying to grow both, but turf too. I know, the programs are getting kind of smaller at colleges. So if we can continue to grow programs, bring more people into the fold, then I think that's a great thing for us in terms of the industry, just because we want to keep it going. So whether it's golf, sports turf, landscaping, whatever, you name it, we got to keep the pool getting bigger, not drying up.
Yeah, we need it. And I think the last couple years of the pandemic and everything really proved to everybody how important we really are to the greater community.
Yeah, golf especially, I think, found that out. And I think sports really, it gave everybody something to focus on too, whenever they finally opened back up in late July, early August. Like all the sports kind of came back at the same time. I think it started with the women's soccer and the NWSL Challenge Cup out there in Salt Lake.
Yes.
And then, we had our bubble in Orlando. NBA had their
Jared
bubble.
Minnick
NHL
talked quite a bit about that on his podcast.
Yeah. The work they did down there is incredible, and so that all kind of just brought back into perspective. I understand that sports they're not a necessity, but it's something that everybody loves, and if it can take your mind off everything else kind of falling apart at the time, everybody thought the sky was falling, and every day was different. We didn't know how things were going to play out here. State to state, day to day, week to week, it all was shifting incredibly rapidly. So to give everybody something to focus on, it was nice. And even still, the other nice thing was I never stopped coming into work. So I wasn't trapped at the house working outside. We kept our crew far apart from each other as best we could, and being able to work outside while everybody else was trapped at home. It was weird. It was kind of dystopian with absolutely no cars in the parking lot at a usually packed place. But like I said, like you just said, the importance of the industries, I think they showed themselves in 2020, where none of us really knew where it was headed. And then all of a sudden we all realized how big of a part we still have to play. So if we can get more people involved with that, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's even more than just a sense of normalcy. We actually help heal. We're part of really helping people. So
absolutely.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, good deal. CJ, thank you so much for coming on the EW podcast and being so generous with your conversation.
Yeah, happy to talk. And like I said, doors are always open, and I'm willing to talk about anything and everything with turf. I love this industry, and just I love nerding out about grass. So I was happy to do it.
What's your Twitter handle so everyone can follow you?
I always forget where the underscore is. Let me look it up right quick. At C_Buck10.
At C_Buck10. Okay, perfect.
Yep. And I try to be, active at least once a week, but I'm always perusing my feed, seeing what golf course guys are doing, what they're coming up with, different tools they're making, seeing what different soccer groundskeepers are doing to mitigate wear and move stuff around, and just keeping an eye on everything, because there's always something to learn. So I love just scrolling through Twitter and seeing what everybody else is doing and getting into.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I hope you have a good day.
Okay, you too. We'll see you.